Lagos has a population of 15 million as far back as 1999. There was no public transport system in place. More than 70% of the population rely on minibuses called Danfo. We're talking about 55,000 Danfo drivers within the city of Lagos. And the services are largely disorganized, unreliable, uncomfortable, and with a lot of security issues. Of course, I'm a frequent accident. So generally, it was a complete case of chaos, and the whole thing was completely, it's a disorganized system. So it was a big problem both for the government and the populace as well. I mean, you can't predict when you're going to get to your destinations. You can't predict when you go home, when you leave work. And then you can't even predict how much you're going to pay for transport fare. And of course, the whole city became very lawless and of course, fully congested because of activities of this fragmented and unorganized 55,000 Danfo operators. Back then, it was very frequent to see people driving against traffic, doing what we generally call one-way traffic. All right, you could see people crossing junctions, picking up passengers and traffic indiscriminately. So dropping off, picking up passengers indiscriminately was general bad behavior in terms of traffic and road space used within Lagos. Those are the kind of challenges that you face in Lagos as back about 1999, before the reform started. Way back in 1999, so one of the first things the then government of the day did was to set up what we call Lagos Urban Transport Project. Okay, so that project office, one of the first things they did was to set up LASMA, Lagos Transport Management Authority. LASMA was set up in the year 2000. So, and the idea behind LASMA is to say that what can we do to restore sanity within the road transport system within Lagos? So that became a big success, So LASMA then took over the business of enforcing traffic within the city and making sure that the Danfo drivers and other road users are able to conform with the normal law. Fast forward to the year 2002, the next thing we saw was Lamata, all right? Through the help of World Bank, Lagos State Government approached World Bank, of course. Through the help of World Bank, they were able to set up Lamata, Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority. And the vision behind that is to be able to ensure that Lagos moving to a 21st century transport authority, transport system, and that involves, getting the transport system from the current state then, which was largely unorganized, fragmented, and generally tough transport system to a more organized, functional, comfortable, reliable, and a more accessible transport system. And of course, that is more comfortable for people. So by 2005, the first transport master plan, or what we call STMP, Strategic Transport Master Plan, was developed by the World Bank, okay, managed, of course, by Lamata. So, and at the end of that exercise, Lagos came up with about 6 BRT lines, 7 rail lines, and about 6 water transport routes as well. So that became the basis of the implementation of the project going forward. So one of the first things that was done was we had to deal with the issue of the informal sector. These guys are the current operator. We're talking about 55,000 Danfo drivers within the city of Lagos. So the strategy government employed, one was to put them together and share the vision with them. Another major step that government took, which helped, was that the executive of the transport union, NURTW in Lagos, was sponsored to about 3 countries, including Chile, Curitiba, and Brazil, to go and see what a world-class public transport system looked like. And through that, they became advocates of this process. All right, so they immediately got their buy-in, and in the process, they also said that, well, government actually meant well, and that if you can invest this, to take us to a different part of the world, and then we've also seen that, yes, we can't continue to live like this. Definitely, there's a better way of doing things. So through that process, their buy-in was got, and then when they came back, the union began to sensitize their own members to the fact that this needs to be done. So that kind of reduced the resistance from the part of the informal sector. And the third step, of course, then was that government then recommended that, look, you guys need to come together as a transport union. So they came together under a cooperative, through which government then empowered them. You see, for them, the fear is whether government is coming to take over their job, all right? Bring in new bosses and then take over their job, and then they'll be left with nothing. But the reverse was the case at the end of the day. So what the government did then was to, practically work with them, guarantee a loan to their cooperative, to which bank then were able to lend them money. So through that, they were able to procure buses and participated in the first BRT light in Lagos. That's on the part of the informal sector. Another thing that needs to be underscored is the fact that there was a lot of political will on the part of Lagos to get that project going. All right, the World Bank literally stopped at that point at feasibility study. So Lagos State government took the project literally from feasibility and said, look, let's give this a go. And there was a lot of huge political support and then, of course, financing to get the first BRT done. And another thing that was done, which is very important also, is the whole BRT as design was not followed fully, so it was a case of let's do something that is scalable. So what Lagos did then was what we call BRT Lite. You focus more on the essentials. What are the essentials? The BRT lane, the depot, the terminals, and the bus shelters, and then, of course, paper ticketing system. So what was important at that point is that how can we demonstrate success as quickly as possible? And that project was started in 2006, and I tell you, within 1.5 years, the project was up and running, which became the first BRT in Africa. Yes, it was a BRT Lite, but believe me, it delivered a lot of value to Lagosians. Travel time from Mile 2 to Ikorodu, a distance of 22 kilometers, used to be 2 hours to 1.5 hours before, was reduced to 45 minutes. So that initial success, gave the Lagos State government more push to apply for more opportunity to be able to develop the same BRT further. By the time we get to 2015, it became 450 air-conditioner buses. Another thing that happened that moved to BRT Classic, meaning that at that point, we have now introduced ticketing system, that's e-ticketing system has been introduced, passenger information service has been introduced, where you can predict your movement and you can see actually when buses are going to arrive and depart, and they are linked to your phones, actually. And then, in addition, the buses are now air conditioners, so which means that it kind of helps ridership. A lot of people, what we also notice is that people that are car owners can actually drop their car because now they have air conditioning, which they have in their car. They can also enjoy that in the BRT. They can plan their journey, they can plan their movement. So basically, life becomes more comfortable for them. So we're able to attract not just the traditional downfall users. Now the BRT is able to attract people who are also on their own private car owners. So through that, we've seen the success of that. In terms of benefits, again, what you notice today is that, one, an average Lagosian now know what the BRT is. All right, so people are actually happy to open the BRT. I know a number of people who have spoken very well about this. They say, look, they've had to drop their car to open the BRT because it's faster, it's safer, it's more comfortable, and you can predict your time, even more than your own personal car, because of the dedicated lane. You can buy your ticket online. You can now have an opportunity to use e-ticketing platform. All right, so generally in terms of comfort, safety, security, is more comfortable. And then in terms of even accident rate, it's been quite low. All right, maybe you have 1 or 2 accidents in a year, unlike downfall that you could have actually 2, 3 accidents in 1 week. All right, so safety has actually gone up. It's improved tremendously. And in terms of the, the beauty and the environmental effect, what has happened along that corridor is that we've taken away nothing less than 500 downfall buses, away from this corridor and replaced them with close to 300 to 400 high capacity buses, so which has made life easier on that corridor. So congestion has gone down on that particular corridor. And in addition to that, in terms of environment, emission has reduced because once you take downfall away, one bus, one HOV has the capacity to reduce, to take away about 3 to 4 downfall buses along the same corridor. Apart from playing a role in the operation of the bus itself, they also have a role to play in doing what I call the last mile services, all right? Because currently the BRT is still along the main corridor. So according to the master plan that Lagos does have, it's going to take, I'm sure, another 20, 30 years to get the whole city fully covered. Okay, so in between this period, you're still going to rely on informal service to provide some last mile services. And so, of course, on the other corridors where the BRT is not available, the informal sector will continue to fill the gap, pending when the services extend to these areas as well. The World Bank financed the Strategic Transport Master Plan in 2005, and then, of course, got on to finance the feasibility studies. But the first BRT Lite project that was done from Mile 12 to CMS was actually financed exclusively by Lagos State government. So Lagos State government financed the infrastructure. I mean, that is the bus stops, the dedicated lane, the terminal, and the depot. All right, and then of course, the Transport Union Cooperative, through a guarantee of government, were able to secure loan, all right, to buy the rolling stock. Because of the success of the first BRT Lite, so the development institutions were more convinced to say, yes, we can put our money here. I mean, this is a project that have clear benefit, and they see that Lamata is an institution that have the capacity to actually deliver the project. So the second phase of that same line was delivered again, supported or funded by the World Bank and AFD. The cooperative of the AURTW, the transport union, did obtain finance from banks, and within 18 months, they were able to pay back the cost of this bus, because of the high ridership again, and then of the fact that the system was managed so well that revenue leakage was quite minimal. In addition to that, Lamata as an agency will also be able to make some money from adverts, on the corridor, on the bus shelters along the corridor. So those are typically the fare box, was very substantial actually to be able to pay back the cost of the rolling stock. Don't forget that we're coming from the school of thought that believe in roads, flyovers, and bridges. Okay, and those are the people that dominate the government system. So one of the issues that Lamata had to contend with at that point was how do you push these reforms through? Meaning that you have people who want to introduce BRT, people that want to introduce light rail, people that want to introduce water transport system within Lagos, and of course some traffic management intervention. With the success of the first BRT, and then everybody begin to see that, oh, okay, so things can be better organized, our road space will be better used, and then we can actually have an organized transport system within Lagos, which is more affordable, reliable, and of course more comfortable.